Hello, everyone, and welcome to TLB, the Digital City. This is our podcast, TLB Talks, episode 2. Here I'm having author Rishabh Rajesh and author L.Venkata Subramaniam with us, and I have their best ever intros possible. So let's dive into it. Author L. Venkata Subramaniam, being the writer of Quantum Nation, already has a 26-year-long tech career. I mean, are you kidding? And he still managed to write such an interesting book that you won't want to leave it once you pick it up. Now I would like the very man to introduce himself and let's see what he says.
Hi, Shreya. Thanks a lot for having me here. I used to be a scientist. These days, I'm known more as an author. So that's what I am. I am an author. Yes, thank you.
Now we have the 17-year-old author. I mean, 17. He's soon turning 18 and he has a huge interest in automobiles and already having his own YouTube channel. And he wrote 3 books, 2 poetic, 1 story. I mean, if I had to be his age again, I would write tons and tons of books. So let's see how he wrote those books and I would have introduced him himself. So please.
So hi guys, and thank you so much Shreya for having us here. And I would like to thank TLB-City as well. And now if I talk about myself, as she has told, I'm 17 years old, soon to turn 18, and I've written 3 books till now. 2 are poetry books. So first I had published in October 2023, and after that I have published 2 books in the following 2024 year. And if I talk about my interest in writing, it has been there from when I was roughly in second standard, where it started off mainly by writing these small assignments which we get in school. And soon that passion grew even more when in 4th and 5th grade I was given the chance to be the proofreader and editor of our school magazine, which a lot of us have written. So that is kind of my introduction. So now we'll talk further over here.
So we've got the introduction and now we'll deep dive into the topics of how do we write a book, how do we publish it, and how do we manage it financially, promotions, and so many things. So we all love our favorite authors. We love to read their books and we always want to know that what was going in their minds when they were writing that very book. So now I have your 2 favorite authors and I will ask them very interesting questions and we'll get their responses. So what was your first breakthrough of writing? Like what was the first time you realized that you want to put your ideas into pen and paper and you want to reach millions of people? I would very much like to know the answer by author Venkata sir. So let's see.
Yeah, I think the first time I, wanted to write was when I used to go and talk about quantum computing. And there was so much interest among people, in terms of knowing what is quantum computing, in terms of understanding how India is positioned in this and what is the future like. And so I thought this is like a great, topic for me to write on. Because there's so much enthusiasm, so much interest, and so much excitement around this topic. And everyone wants to know about it, from kids to old people, everybody across the board, different age groups. And that was what inspired me to write a book on quantum computing, especially with a focus on how India is positioned and how India can lead this in the future.
Now I would like author Rishabh Rajesh to present his views because his book is just the polar opposite of Quantum Nation, teenage and everything that revolves around teenage. We all have been through it, haven't we?
Okay, so as I told, I have 3 books in my kitty right now, and 2 are poetry books and 1 is a teenage centric book. So if I first talk about my poetry books, so this passion for writing, as I told, has been there for a long time. But the interest came more during lockdown, when everything was locked up and there was nothing to do. And that time, all the feelings which were there were a lot of feelings which were pented up inside, and I wanted to put them out. So that's when I started writing these short stories, poetries, etc. And after writing quite a few poetries, I realized that I should publish it, because anyways I was putting it out on Instagram, etc. But I wanted to publish it as well. And that's when the idea in October 2023 came, when I published my first book, which was Entangled. And soon after that, in a few months, I wrote my second book, which is on teenage. So right now, as I told, I am about to turn 18. So as we know that the teenage phase is from about 12, 13 till 18, 19. So that book is completely based on my observations as a teenager. So it's not like I'm preaching something or saying something, advising anybody. It is just that I'm writing my opinion, my observations, and the same thing I have put down in that book. So it covers an array of topics, right from puberty to distancing from parents after a few years into that. Distancing from parents is not the love, but more of the not sharing everything, keeping some things, keeping a distance, and all of that. And all that is there. Then also I've written upon the difference between infatuation and love, because that is a confusion which many teenagers and many people have, even grown-ups have. So I've written about that as well. So that's about life in a nutshell, which was my second book. And my third book is Whispers Beneath Silence, and that book was not in my plan. That was because I was just writing poetries. I was writing quite a lot, and that's when I decided that I have a lot of poems which I've written, and the same thing I have published as my third book.
Now we have our second question, that when you first wrote the book, when first time that idea came into paper, who was the very first person you ran to that, oh my god, I wrote this book, you have to see it? And what was their reaction like? Did you get some constructive criticism, or you straight up got hate or something like this? I would start with author Rishabh Rajesh, because being a teenager, your parents say this to you a lot, that stop this, put your mind into studies. So please.
Yeah, so the first book which I wrote, which is Entangled, it was actually a surprise for my parents. They didn't know about it. So my uncle, like my father's brother, I went to him and I said that I have this idea in mind that I want to publish this poetry book. And with God's grace, he was very supportive in it, and he paid for the publishing and all, and he was very supportive in the whole thing. Like, he was involved in everything, right from signing the contract to the payment to being involved in what is the progress in it. And then came the time when I did a book launch for this. It was a pretty big thing for me at that time, and that's when I went to my grandfather, and he was the one who helped me with the arrangement, with everything. And that's where I showed the book first time to my parents, and when they read it after the launch, when we came back home, they were like, it's amazing, because they knew that I'm writing poetries, but they didn't have any idea that I'm going to publish it. So they were very happy. They were pleased that something our child has done. And that was the first thing. And then of course I gave a few copies of the books to my friends who came to the launch, and other people. And the common thing which people do is, as an obligation, they usually say, oh, it's very good. So I didn't really get any negative feedback at that time, but I know that there might have been some shortcomings and downfalls, which till date I'm not aware of what are they from the perspective of other people. But when I did a self introspection while reading the book, I could see that there were some places where I could have improved more.
Now, all I hear are very supportive parents, grandparents, and even uncle and aunts. I mean, what do you mean this is not fictional? So now I would like to hear the answer of author L.Venkata Subramaniam, because we want something which is a bit more realistic. Because what do you mean you have supportive parents?
Yeah, so So, Rishabh and Shreya, honestly, I get very inspired by you young people. Okay, I have two teenagers in my house, my twin daughters who just turned 13 very recently. So, Rishabh, I suppose they should be reading your book at some point. Uh, but what I find very exciting is that they were the first people I told I'm writing a book. They said, "What, you writing a book? What are you doing writing a book?" Because my daughters also write. They also just like you, Rishabh, at such a young age. They're putting pen to paper and expressing themselves, uh, telling their thoughts. They even write songs. So it's very inspiring for me to look at you young people and see that you're doing so much at this young age. And here I am. At this old age I wrote one book. Okay, that's what I did. But as you said, my parents were also very supportive, very happy, because now they don't have to support me as such, but the happiness that they expressed, in their eyes, what I saw, that's priceless, right? So my children, my wife, my parents, everybody, but of course, only my mother has read the book. Nobody else ventured to read the book yet. Okay. But they offer all their criticism. Any interview that I do, they tell me, "Oh, what, you're shaking your head too much, you shouldn't be doing this." So I get a lot of good criticism from my daughters, and as I said, Rishabh and Shreya, I'm really inspired by you too also.
This leads to my very next question, which is how do you deal with yes men? I mean, people who never give you constructive criticism because they fear you might succeed. They always sugarcoat their things. Like they always have something good to say about you, but in reality, even we know that we are not all whites. We all have our dark things, and you must say something which is not exactly good, and you would want to change it about yourself, but you can't because people they don't say it on your faces. So let's start with author Venkata sir, and I am ready for the response.
Yeah, sure. So Shreya, what I've seen is culturally, we Indians are very nice to each other. We never say critical things. We like to be very positive and very good to each other. And this showed through in the book also. A lot of people gave me open praise. Okay, a lot of praise on social media and also when they meet me, but very few gave me any criticism. And when I asked them, please, put that criticism also as a review, nobody did. Okay, nobody. Okay, so I don't know. I feel it's a cultural thing where we don't like to, give any bad news. We're always good news people.
Now, I must say that it is the reality because people don't say things at your faces because they might not be want to be in the bad list, or they are just to say inherently nice people. I'll get to the depth of it. So now I would like author Rishabh Rajesh to answer this question that how does he deal with yes men?
So as sir said that culturally we have a lot of people who don't they want to tell everything good and they don't have anything bad to say. But what I have experienced, not just in writing or publishing process, but overall, that sometimes I feel that having every time yes men around you may sometime condition my brain such that everything is good, oh I'm the best. But there should be that few set of people who tell on your face that oh this is not good, this is bad. So that's what I have felt, because somewhere that ego or that mindset will come to me, oh everything is good about me. So somewhere if there are people who talk critical about you, you'll have that understanding, oh here these are my shortcomings and here I have to improve. Because if everybody says it's good, then if I write the next book or if I do something even better next time, I'll still not have that feedback in mind that what I did wrong. And then the other set of people, I'll face that backlash again from those few set of people, oh you didn't improve this time as well. So I feel it is always a need that there should be a balance of both. so that we are aware and we introspect ourselves and look at where we are going wrong or where we are good and work on it and improve next time.
Now, that was the answer which I really liked because, yeah, until you don't introspect about yourself, how are you supposed to change and be better? And life, it's all about being better, doing better than your past version. And I'm getting to my very next question, which might or might not include this part, is how do you get over writer's block? And if you get one very often, how do you deal with it? Now, let Rishabh answer first and let's see the response.
So most of the times writer's block is there for me, and that thing I have been facing. Now it can be for various reasons. Like if I give you an example, when I started my first book, which is poetry book, and wrote my first poetry, second poetry, I always had this thing in mind that when I get up in the morning, I'll be like, oh, today I want to write something. But then as time passes, as the day goes by, that feeling goes away. So, as I had told in my previous author interview as well, which was conducted on TLB itself, that poetry or anything which I write doesn't come to me like just for the heck of it. When I get the feeling, when I wish that I want to write, that's when it comes naturally to me, if I may say. And if someone keeps me on a gunpoint and says that you write, that's when that writer block hits, and then that that phase goes on for a very long time, and coming out of that is difficult, and overcoming that is a bit of a challenge. It's tough, but then when that phase goes away, the writing and the quality of that content is even better, because I have those many days to think about what I want to write. So that thinking time is there more, and then I notice that my content is even better than the previous time. So yeah.
Yeah, as Rishabh said, there's always writer's block. It never goes away, according to me. Okay, it's always there. So my strategy was every day just set aside some time, and in that time, whether you write good stuff, bad stuff, whether you're happy with it, unhappy with it, just write. And eventually, I feel you just have to bulldoze your way through the writer's block, because for me it never goes away. Maybe it's laziness, maybe it's being non-creative. I don't know what it is, but I just have to work my way through it. I feel and that's the only approach I know.
And I must say, maybe it's perfectionism. Maybe you want your work to be so perfect that you don't like your rough drafts. And as someone who writes occasionally, I aim to write 1000 words. And 1000 is not even much if you start writing it once. And if you're into poem and you get an idea that, oh my god, this is gonna be so good, record it. You have your phone with you 24/7, record it and write whenever you are free. I have a draft which is there for like 2 weeks, and guess who hasn't written it? Now, let's get to our very next question. When and at what age did you publish your first book? And what was the experience of it? Like, I must say the adrenaline rush or the nervousness? Both. So let author Venkata answer first because we need experience.
Yeah, I published my first book when I had 110 birthdays. Okay, so you might wonder, what, 110? Actually, I have 2 birthdays a year. So at the age of 55, I published my first book. And it's been very exciting. I mean, now I know why movie stars and everybody, Friday, they're all biting their nails, pulling out their hair, wondering what's going to happen. Because you have put your thoughts on the paper now. Okay, now it's for the reader to judge you, and you don't have any control on that. Okay, zero control. You can't tell them, oh, you gotta like this book. That's not how it's going to work. So you have to just put it out there and wait for the response. And that's a very, very nervous situation for you. I mean, no matter how stable or cool you are, I still feel that it creates that uncertainty and anxiety in you, and it's like an adrenaline rush also, because you're waiting, seeing what's going to happen.
Okay, so like Sir said that these actors, when their movie's trailer comes out or their film is about to release, the level of nervousness they have, and they are grown people. Obviously, they also have nervousness. But imagine being a teenager when everything is all over the place. My mind, my thoughts are all over the place. It's double, triple that nervousness. And when I first published my book, so unfortunately my first book, the initial 2 weeks when it got released, not a lot of people bought it. Most of the copies which were bought were from me itself, because for the launch I had to give. But then after the second week passed, and when my book started selling on Amazon, Flipkart, I got quite a few copies which were sold. And there I got a mixed feedback over there, which is when my family members or someone else who I had not given my book, when they read, they had mixed feelings, because they knew that some of the places there were shortcomings. It was scary. I was afraid of the backlash which I might get, the criticism. But once after the 2 weeks passed and when people bought the book, they gave their reviews, that was the most rewarding experience for me. So yeah.
I must say, pretty interesting, especially at the age where you have to deal with your hormones and nervousness at the same time. Quite a young age, and I really like this answer. So now let me ask Rishabh a straight up answer that when you first published your book, you certainly were not earning. So you had to borrow the money or ask for the money. So how was that feeling?
So that feeling, like if I'm even smaller, like if I'm say 10, 11, I don't have any sense of money at that time. Nobody has at that time. So asking someone for anything, it's not just money, to buy something, that time we don't know the value of it. So I can straight up ask. But then when I was 16 and when I published my book, I knew a bit about the value of money and how it is being spent. So over there, I researched quite a lot and found, the best deal I can get for publishing. Or maybe if I was even smaller, any deal which would come to me, maybe straight up I'll, say that, I'll go with this deal. But then when the value of money comes into place, I researched for a very long time and I came to the best deal, which I went ahead with my publisher.
Yeah, and as Rishabh said, it's not much money. It's 1,000, 2,000. That's it. And actually, once you start, once the book starts picking up and people start buying, then you realize that okay, even that investment which you made is recovered very easily, right? So I don't think monetarily it sets anyone behind, in terms of publishing, because the publishing today is so easy, and in fact, if it's an ebook, it's even free, right? So I don't think, money is really a consideration, especially for creative people like you, Shreya, and Rishabh, because, yeah.
Thank you, sir, first for calling me creative. And yeah, now I must really consider publishing something because why not? So, when you published your very first book, you clearly were on the, cloud nine, everything was happy. So, how did you celebrate your first milestone? It is for author Venkata, sir.
Okay. So when the cover got designed, I went to the temple and showed the cover, to the god, and that's how I sort of began my journey. Apart from that, gave copies of the book to family members. So that's how I celebrated, by giving to my daughter, my wife, my brother-in-law, my mother, my father, everybody, just handing out these initial few 10 copies or so was how I celebrated, and seeing their reaction, to a book, a real book in their hands, which I had written. So I think that just looking at them was very special for me.
Yeah, so I had two celebrations actually. One was small, one was big. So first was of course when the cover was there, when the book got published, I was very happy. So I didn't do anything much at that time, but then I had this anxiety as well as happiness that came with the two different celebrations. First was that the day when I had when my launch was there for the book, you know I had still not received the copies of my book to hand over to my guests who were coming. So, I was very anxious because the publisher had delayed it a lot for sending me the copies. So, just 2 hours before the launch, I got my copies. So, I was on a whole different anxious level. And when the copies finally came, I opened, I checked if everything is okay. That's when I took a small bar of chocolate and I broke the pieces and ate. And then I kept all the copies in front of the god, the mandir which we have at home. So they put this tika on the top book, and that rice and flowers they put, and they told me to put. So I put all of that, so that happy feeling was there. And then of course when the launch was there, everyone was there. I'd called a photographer, and one big thing which was there is that my English teacher, who supported me a lot before writing the book, she herself volunteered to speak something at the launch. So I'd invited her as a chief guest. She voluntarily came and spoke a bit, and when she spoke things, and when we had a discussion, she was really happy. She was telling me that how far I have come, like first time. So she had told it's also the guest note in the book. I don't remember the word for that. So she had written that. So she had told that the first time when she had seen me in school holding a tripod and a camera and recording the school events in our auditorium, from that I have come to writing a book. So that thing made me really happy. So these were the things, the small things which built up, and I celebrated. And that day when I came home and I slept, that was the best sleep I had ever got. Yes.
So I must agree that someone who has been there for you at such a age, like a teacher is someone in which front of whom you grow from literally a child to an adolescent, then to an adult. And when she came to this event, it really meant a lot. So now he said that how far he have come. Now let's see what would change in 10 years. Like, what do you think your writing process, your thought process, your style would be after 10 years? Just a guess, I would like it.
Okay. So, of course, the writing would change because my thought process, the scenarios will change after 10 years. And maybe what I'm writing now, I might write more maturely after 10 years, because, of course, I'll be 28. So, of course, the whole thing will change, everything will change, the maturity level will come. Maybe I might not experiment a lot like I do right now. Maybe I'll be restricted to, writing in that cocoon, that one space, because right now I try to experiment a bit, but right now also, sometimes I'm not happy with the experimentation. So I'm such a person who likes to write in what I'm comfortable with. If I go out of my comfort place and write, it is there, I am able to bring out an output, but not the best, at least for me. Maybe the others who are reading that experimental poetry or experimental writing, maybe they might like or they might not. But as I told, I'm such a person who doesn't like to experiment. So if I'm not experimenting much at this age, maybe I don't think after 10 years I'll experiment a lot. Yeah, that's about it.
So, writing in a cocoon, or might not even write in a cocoon, who knows? So, now I'll get to author Venkata sir, and I would like to know that what advice would he give to his self when he first started writing the book? Like, what might be, or what is the difference between the published author and the aspiring author?
Yeah, I think, Shreya, the aspiring author is always sort of nervous, trying to think what are the, because mine is non-fiction. Okay, I have to make non-fiction interesting and creative and make it interesting for the readers, right? So I was always, thinking when in the writing process that how do I make sure that the person who is reading this book doesn't get bored, gets inspired, and thinks about how they can, participate in this journey that India is taking, right? Because this book is about the India's quantum journey, which has just begun. And I hope this is the first book in many books where we trace the success of how our nation does in this technology. Because In this century, the nations which embrace technology and use technology to grow economically will be the ones that will do well. So my hope here was, as I was writing, was to create this inspiration in people to read the book and take a path for themselves where they can contribute to the country. And now that I'm a published author, I feel, of course, that there are things I could have written differently, maybe, but also I'm very happy that it's been received well, and the thought with which I wrote the book has sort of been accomplished, because a lot of people, I think, are getting inspired by the book, and they're reading it and they're starting their own new quantum journeys which will contribute to the growth of our country.
So, we have two different authors, two different ages. I must say that I would very much like to be, a 25, 26-year person very soon, because I want to know what goes in my mind after that. So why don't I just take some advices from the very author who's very much experienced, and tech world, it really fascinates me. So, how does experience matter? Like, for author Venkata sir, how do you think your experience in this tech world helped you write this book? Because making non-fiction interesting and not boring is very important, and this book is quite a bit interesting.
Yeah, so Shreya, we all have a story inside us, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, whether we are writing about our experiences. I believe all of us have a story inside us. We all want to tell something to the world, and of course, some of us have this privilege of actually putting down the words into on paper and publishing in the form of a book. But my advice to everyone would be that just start, because it doesn't cost money, first of all. Yes, it's time and effort on your part, but I think the end product is really valuable, and it will be something which you can be proud of, your family is proud of, your friends are proud of. And just being able to say that, oh, look, I have written a book, is, I think, a very special feeling. So just go for it. And as Rishabh pointed out, be creative, be risk taking in what you write. There are no limits. It's your book. What's the worst that can happen? Nothing. So just go on and do it.
And as I'm someone who has seen the cover like multiple of times and even talked about it, I must say it's breathtakingly beautiful. Now let's hear the response of author Rishabh, because he was very young when he was at the age to achieve a very huge milestone. So let's go.
So, experience, I might not be able to talk too much because compared to Sir, I have very little experience. But as Shreya said, that teenage teaches us a lot of things. Same if it would have been pre-teenage phase when I would have written this, things would have been completely different. But as teenage came in, I had a fair share of my own bad experiences, negative experiences. So all that, somewhere it has taught me that you have to just put everything out there. You have to put your all in into whatever you're doing. It can be studies, it can be writing a book, it can be video editing, it can be anything. So whatever fair share of experience you have, you put it into the one thing you're doing. And my belief is that I try to put my dip my feet into everything that I can do, whatever is possible, so that I'm able to know that maybe after 5-6 years down the line, what is that one thing which I can do which will keep me happy, instead of thinking that I'll just do this one thing, I'll go in this one line, I'll keep doing this, because then you will not be able to gain experience. Maybe there might be people my age who would want that I want to just go into that one field, I want to go into that one line of work, and I want to keep doing that. So if I dip my feet into doing various things, I'll know what I want to do. And just like how writing was one of my endeavors which I wanted to go into, and that flourished for me with God's grace, and now I am where I am. So yeah.
So, as you heard, experience does matter. And your life, it's like the biggest teacher. If you are living, you are really learning new things every day. Like, can you believe that whenever you are walking, you are learning new things? Maybe it's just the Newton's third law, who cares? New things, experience, they all a part of life and they all matter. So now, I must have this question from my side, but it's quite a personal, selfish question. Do you have any next books in your timeline? Like, do you have any more books you are gonna publish or you are writing? Because I would definitely like a sneak peek.
Okay, so from my first book itself, I had this in mind that I want to write a novel. I have an idea in mind. I have written a outline of the book. It's I want to write a romance novel, a romance fiction book. So I have plans for that. I've written a basic story, and maybe I'll start putting all in for this after April once my exams are over. So yeah, maybe you don't know, after 7-8 months maybe I'll launch my next book and it will be a novel.
Yeah, so once you write one book, I can bet you cannot stop there. Okay, so I've already started, writing my next book, which is a continuation of this series, and it is on cyber security. How India can protect itself from all the cyber threats, because in future the wars aren't going to be wars which you fight on the battlefield. It's going to be war where your power stations are brought down, your airlines are brought down, your critical infrastructure is brought down, and how do we protect ourselves against that is the next book.
And I must say that that thing, it just gave me a sense that cybersecurity is very important. And people these days, they are hacking into your systems. Even I don't know what to say, but how do you know that when you are not using a certain app, its camera and mic access is not using you? So be wise. And I must say that I am definitely going to be the first buyer of this book and I'm going to read it because, oh my god, I really need that.
So here, Rishabh, I have a question for you. Okay, so the previous
Yeah.
question was about experience, and you said you're going to
Yeah.
next novel is going to be about romance. So, do you have enough experience in romance to write a novel on romance?
No, I don't have an experience in that, unfortunately. But I do have experience from the fact that I've that I have written. Sorry, I've read a lot of romance novels, so I do have an idea in that, but not in real life.
So I must say, author Rishabh is going to give all those fantasies to his characters which he couldn't get in real life because that is something I am very interested to read. And as author Venkata said, once you start writing a book, there's no going back. Because me, who has drafted 3 books, they have not even ended, but I just keep dooming. Like, you all do doom scrolling, I do doom writing. I write whatever I have in my mind. And that is something which everyone should do. So this brings us to the end of this episode of TLB Talks podcast episode 2 season 1. I had immense amount of fun in hearing those things, like, and the backstory that how people put their first book to God because the Almighty, it handles us all. And now I would like an outro from author Rishabh and author Venkata sir. So let's start with author Venkata sir and I would see you in the next episode.
So Shreya, thank you so much. You and the whole team at TLB, you've opened a whole new world for me. Okay, so I never knew this world existed. Okay, this whole author reader connection that you have made at TLB is very exciting for me, and thank you so much for giving me this platform, this opportunity, and this. I'm able to engage with all of you young people, which otherwise I just wouldn't. And also, to have Rishabh, a 17-year-old who has written so many books already on poetry, and he's writing a novel on romance now. It's very inspiring, and this is what TLB did for me, bringing together all these young people to inspire my brain cells and make me do bigger things than I've been doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shreya, for having me on this podcast. And I would also like to thank Sharad sir, who is the founder of TLB. He gave us a platform, like Venkata sir said, to connect with other readers, other authors, and getting inspired and writing something like this. And it gave me a voice to, say that, there is a community like this for us. Because before TLB, I thought that the community for readers and authors is very less. But once I joined TLB, I knew that there is such a big community out there who is supportive, who gives us constructive criticism and all of that. And now, after I edited that first video for TLB as a normal member, and then Sharad sir taking me in as a manager, giving me work, giving me that whole new experience which I would not have gotten before joining as a manager. And that's what then now TLB managers and TLB members have become an extended family for me. And also Venkata sir, you inspired me a lot today, and it was amazing having you, and thank you for giving us your time over here
Thank you.
come on this podcast and sharing your experience. So thank you so much.
I must say that when you are friends with a podcast guest, he steals your lines, okay? Protect yourself. I'm just warning you for the future. I enjoyed it very much, and just drop us in the comments that what you would like to see next, and did you like this episode, because I am here for all the constructive criticism, though I might reply with even more sass. So let's just say thank you for watching till here.
Thank
And
you.
if you are till here, and just subscribe us already, so that you can say that you are here from day 2 already. I'll see you in the episode 3 with brand new guest and brand new topic.
Yeah, and all the best to both of you. You're doing amazing work, and as I said, I'm an old man, but seeing you young people do this at such a young age is very inspiring. So thank you, and keep doing this. Keep doing this. This is great stuff.